guys see here, Ponics. Today we're going to talk about growing with fishes. Growing with fishes.
Hey everybody, welcome to Growing with Fishes, episode 249. This week we have the super awesome chef that I had a chance to meet in Austin, and then we really reconnected again in Dallas, Michael Weinstein of Rebel Dreads. Thanks for coming and joining us today.
You're welcome, man. Thank you for having me. Good to meet you. Finally, at the Lucky Leaf shows.
Oh yeah.
Right. Sorry I didn't get to hear you speak. I was doing demos, so.
That's all right. A lot of the speakers, we always have that problem.
Right. Saw you walking around.
We've had a chance to listen to
Can't miss you.
We've had we're the only two people that actually have waist-length dreads there. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, pretty much. I think so, yeah.
He has a wonderful... Sorry, I had a fat dab right before the show. We were talking about Frenchie. Anyways, he has a really, really wonderful different demos for people on how to cook at home. He does a bunch of awesome CBD products, and he's going to talk to us about a whole bunch of different cooking stuff today. I'm super stoked on that. We also have Fumador joining us. Thanks, buddy.
Cheers, dude. I'm trying to figure out my audio, and I'm apparently not good at it because it's like still playing out of the computer. But anyway, cheers, guys. I'm really proud to say that I finally put together Fumidoro.com, FumidoroSeedco.com. Go check out my seeds. Go take a look. Feel free to buy some if you'd like. You don't have to. You can tell me what you like or dislike about the website, but I would honestly really enjoy it if you guys did take a look at those seeds. Other than that, happy to hang. Cheers, Steve. Cheers, Michael. Great to
Cheers
be here.
Nice meeting you.
With you, man.
Awesome. And Marty will be joining us here, I think, in a little bit. For him, especially doing the later show, it's a little easier, but he might not be with us right when he launches the show. We'll do one quick plug here. Thanks, everybody, for joining us earlier. I have a whole super cut I did of Frenchie and all of the different, basically, content that he did with us on the show. Out of it as a little memorial for him. I edited it all together today, and it came out to 4 hours, 20 minutes, and 45 seconds. So if that isn't a sign from Frenchie, I don't know what the fuck is. That just put a huge smile on my face when I woke up to that, and it showed me that how long the file was when it finished rendering this morning. I made my whole day. So you guys can check that out if you want to hear all the awesome content he ever did with us. He definitely drops a ton of knowledge. Also check us out over at apmjclass.com if you guys are looking for a top to bottom aquaponic cannabis class. We cover everything from home to commercial, and we have 2 live sessions each month, and we have constantly adding new sections to the class. We have a new section on how to build a greenhouse from scratch using a mill and milling your own logs, and a whole bunch of other cool stuff that's geared more towards homesteading and farmer producers on more of a craft scale. So I think you guys are really going to like some of the newer content that we've been doing, and then we also have some cool content that we'll be doing next week in Georgia at one of the legal hemp CBD grows out there that we've been working on. It's quite nice. So we'll be there checking that out next week. All right, thanks, Michael. Let me pull up your website here.
Sure.
Had it pulled up, but thanks a lot for joining us. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what Rebel Dreads is all about?
Well, my name is Michael Weinstein, aka Dreadhead Chef. So I've got a company called Rebel Dreads Corp. So it's sort of that's the parent company, and then there's other brands under Rebel Dreads. One's called Dreadhead Chef, as you can see in the screensaver there. And I've got a Bada Wellness, which is topicals and intimacy serum. And then I've got a Harper's Pet Elixir, which is my pet products. Actually, it was named after my bull mastiff, who was my first real guinea pig in the CBD world. He was 7. He was diagnosed with arthritis in both of his back legs. And at that point, started giving him some CBD, and he lived to 10 and a half, which is pretty good for a big dog like a bull mastiff. So my background is I am a French trained chef. So I've been in the Dallas scene for over 20 plus years, worked at some really nice restaurants in Dallas, and sort of got burnt out in the restaurant scene. And you can see the salsa that just passed by. So I started a company years ago called Dreadhead Chef, and had the salsas and some chips. So dessert chips were cinnamon and chocolate dusted chips that went with the salsa, all fruit based, so all sweet, no heat. And did pretty good with it. Took it on the road to some cannabis cups, Colorado, California, Washington, and at that point I was like, God, how can I infuse this? So I've always wanted to infuse a food. So me living in Texas, trying to do stuff out west, unless I move out west, was going to be really difficult. So once the farm bill passed, kind of opened things up a little bit. So I've now did about 2.5 years, 2.5 years of research on how to infuse the salsa, because oil and water do not mix. So finally figured that out, and I've got these little caramels that I've been making. So these little salted caramels, get a little tube here. That's sort of my new mainstay. So the caramels, I use actually the biomass in it. So you get the sweetness and the earthiness of the caramel. So it's just a real nice, goes really nice on your palate. So, but everything I've done, I pretty much make myself. So I've done all the formulations myself and everything. So a lot of work, definitely more enjoyable than the hustle and bustle of the restaurant life. So, but been luckily able to do some demos for Lucky Leaf. And so my whole thing with it is to show people how to infuse at home and do it pretty simply without a lot of complications, like, getting nitrogen out and showing a demo. Most home cooks can't do that. So, trying to show how a home cook, how to actually, they can make a meal or do a dish that's infused, and, they can follow the recipe or sort of do what they want to do with it. So that's sort of what I'm trying to do is, give people the opportunity at home to make something delicious at their house. So either with CBD or with THC, wherever you live, you can do whatever you want. So, but yeah, it's great to be on your podcast, and Stephen, thank you for having me.
Awesome. What were some of the early challenges that you ran into as far as trying to break into the cannabis market as a chef and try to wrapping your head around that? With chefs, you're used to dealing with a lot of regulatory stuff with food safety and dealing with inspectors and stuff like that. I would imagine that was kind of maybe gave you a leg up on a lot of the other people that are doing this, because a lot of people aren't used to dealing with that. So do you want to talk about maybe some of the different things that maybe were kind of a learning or interesting thing that you learned coming into the cannabis side of stuff that maybe you were not aware of, or maybe was a little bit different?
Sure. Well, first of all, since I had Dreadhead Chef already, the salsa and the chips, when I developed those and had them in stores, I had to go through all the regulation process of what's a shelf life, how long does it go last in a jar. So since I already had a little bit of that knowledge, that made things a little bit easier. The hardest part really was getting the formulation of how not to make it too strong or how to make it at the right level that you're looking for in milligrams. And then the other aspect when you're trying to sell edibles or anything was the banking, the financial and everything. And, making sure your I's are dotted, your T's are crossed, by getting a lawyer and everything. So fortunately, I had a little bit of the knowledge, like I said, from already putting a product into a jar and, knowing my shelf life and, the pH balance, the water level, the water activity in the products on how they can stay in your product and not turn bad without preservatives adding. I had 0 preservatives to my products, so which is pretty unusual nowadays. And I guess the hardest part, I guess, with doing stuff with hemp or I guess legal stage THC is the taste, especially with the distillate, the full spectrum oils. A lot of them just don't taste good. So how to have that in the back when you taste something, how the flavor of what you're tasting up front and sort of that medicine taste in the very, very back end at the last minute was really a pretty difficult challenge. So, I got a little assistance from a scientist to help me out with that, especially since I was developing an intimacy serum. So, and I wanted it flavored for fun. But yeah, those were some of the challenges, and it's not easy. I mean, I can tell anyone it's not easy. I mean, how to infuse it, you're in California originally, so you're definitely a lot more stuff was going on out there than Texas, and sort of researching. For me, it was researching, looking at a book here and there, really looking online a lot to see what people were doing, how they were infusing stuff, how long the time was, how to decarb. Never heard that word until like 6 years ago, I think. All those little things are, you got to do your research. I mean, that's what it's about. Then just test at home and see what you can do. I mean, you can't make something without testing it. And if you're not sure what you're doing, you've got to go get it tested. There's labs around that can do either food safety for you, and now there's labs in Texas, that can do your potency testing as well. So those were a lot of the challenges I actually had, and just and then I guess the other one is if you're trying to make a product, well, can you make it yourself, or should have it outsourced? Well, a lot of companies don't want you to co-pack for you. Well, they want thousands of units for you to make. So that might be an over exaggeration, but talking about cases upon cases. So unless you've got that money to do that, or then you have to make it yourself. So hopefully that answers some of the questions there for you.
Oh yeah, as someone that also makes edibles up in Oklahoma, figuring out how to streamline going from, a lot of people are really good at making batches or even large batches of food, right? But there's a whole other craft to breaking all that down into units that are the same weight or the same dosage,
right?
And packaging all that evenly, and that takes a whole bunch of other research and packaging equipment and labeling stuff and all that stuff, and that really can be a challenge. And if anyone ever is running into a big issue with that, I cannot recommend enough, because he's helped myself and a whole slew of my different clients. Jeremy from Adler Packaging in Maryland, we actually had a whole episode with Jeremy where he went through all the different child safety stuff that exists and all the different packaging methods and all the different funky stuff for food safety for mass manufacture. And it was kind of neat on and of itself, just from like a mechanical, looking at all these different things.
Right. I mean, for the salsa, it's for me to, when I was doing it, and like I said, when I developed it, I was like, well, how do I get into a jar, to keep it safe? I learned about canning real quick. And in the restaurant business, I mean, we do it, but we do it a different way. So we're not sitting there because we're not to do volume of something. We're only making something for, like less than 7 days. But how to really get it into a jar and make sure it stays fresh and safe. So, I mean, I learned a lot in the very beginning, and this was before, doing it in infusing. So it's, that really has helped me, like I said, perpetuate me into this business and to learn more. And so, safety is key. And, that's my number one thing is, making sure it's done properly, making sure it's done safe. So, I certainly do not want anybody getting sick on the product I make. And so I guess the other thing is, obviously with the packaging, what you have to have on your package for labeling and everything. You just can't say, oh, it's this, and you have to have all your warnings on there and everything. So even my dog products I'm making right now with Harper's Pet Elixir, I still put a child resistant top on there just so a kid can't get into it. Certainly don't want a kid drinking a whole 1 ounce vial of full spectrum oil. So, safety is my key, and doing everything in a safe and sanitary method is definitely it's super important. It's like one of the most important things. As I said, if somebody gets sick, that's not the news you want to have.
At least the, and the nice thing too is the worst thing that would happen even in a worst case scenario is someone ate an ounce of vegetable oil or plant-based oil, so they got to go sit in the bathroom for a couple hours because it's running through them. It's
Right. I mean, it's not gonna hurt you, that's for sure. But you
but
know,
uh, but that's the thing I always liked about with the tinctures and the oils and stuff like that is they're even in a worst case scenario, just a trip to the bathroom ain't no big deal. You know what I mean? But even then, like that doesn't even really happen. Once in a blue moon, someone I really don't have any issues or hear many people have issues with the oils, with any type of cannabis oil, really.
I haven't heard it. I haven't had anybody tell me they've had any issues so far. I mean, everybody pretty much, I think, especially the tinctures, if I tell them, you got to figure it out yourself, what your dose is, what works for you. They really do listen. I'm sure up in, Oklahoma or the legal state, when people say, only eat a little piece of that chocolate bar, you don't need the whole thing. And then like, oh, I don't feel anything in 10 minutes. Next thing they eat the whole chocolate bar, or whatever. Then they're very unhappy after that, especially 2 hours later.
I had a boss of mine that was just getting into cannabis, and I bought her big chocolate bar, and she took one and texted me and told me she took one, and then she had that same exact thing 30 minutes later. She wasn't feeling anything yet because she had eaten some food and stuff, and then I get a call like 2 hours later, like panicked, like high as shit. Just like, I ate the whole bar. What do I do?
Have some CBD.
You need some CBD, some peppercorn, a little mint hash. You'll be all right.
That's right. That's all you gotta do. It's pretty easy.
Those are really the best things. The best thing you can take to counteract super high THC, that's a great topic, is CBD straight up. If you have some CBDs that you can dab, that's even the best. Get it directly into the bloodstream that way.
Right.
Or a tincture, like some of the tinctures that you have. That's another great one.
Yeah, I got my little tinctures here. Well, my tinctures are named after desserts, by the way, and there's no sugar added, so that's pretty cool.
And then peppercorn is historically shown to reduce how high people are. And then mint hash. So you can use bubble hash bags like you would for cannabis on mint. And you can actually get a nice hash, like a trichome head hash off of that's mint. And it's wonderful for flavoring candies, ice creams, desserts. But you can put it under your tongue if you get too high, and it'll also help reduce how high you are.
Interesting. That's a good one there. It'll taste good too.
Oh yeah, it's like essence of mint. It's really good.
Right.
So what are you have tell us a little bit about the demo that you teach for or put on for people. You kind of show people how to do a couple of different ways to do it at home. I thought that was a really cool. I've caught two different chunks of your demo. I think they overlapped there in the middle, but if not, I'll have to sit through it beginning to end here on the next one.
Right, you can critique me next time. So no, I mean, really, it's about a lot of people probably at home don't know about how to decarb or anything, or decarboxylate, which is, as we know, taking CBD or THCA, and you cook it, or in the oven, or as now Steven showed me, a sous vide method as well, or a couple of ways to decarb it, the plant material, to turn that A into and activate the plant material, the biomass, into THC or CBD. So that's what the first thing I teach them. And then I basically will take that once it's decarbed on, either put that in a fat. And so the last couple of demos I've done, I've made I put into an oil. One was an extra virgin olive oil, which I turned green. Unfortunately, Chef Sebastian, who's up in Oregon, I can't travel anymore, but when he came to the Austin show, he brought me some fresh hemp leaves. So I started using his hemp leaves to make the oil green. So just a little trick, why not, sort of thing, since I know how to do it. And that really, to me, is a finishing oil. It's not, you take an extra virgin olive and you're going to saute with it. You'll burn everything out, including the olive oil. So especially, I use hot pans when I sear and saute. So I would definitely burn everything out. But So it's for me, it's it's taking that, taking the oil and make it sort of a finishing oil for your infusion. So the dish I did in Austin was roasted rainbow carrots with a beet hummus and some toasted pine nuts, cumin scented hemp seeds, and a infused gremolata. Gremolata is a sort of an Italian topping that they use. It's usually with Italian fat leaf parsley, garlic, and lemon zest, and extra virgin olive oil, which that's what I infuse. So that way you can kind of control your dose that way once you know how much is in your oil. So you don't have to go too heavy, or if you want to go heavier, you can go heavier. And then the dish that I did in Dallas, which I won't do in Oklahoma since it says Texas on it, it was Texas caviar with a friend of mine's tomatoes, and the infusion part came in a vinaigrette. So I did a roasted jalapeno bacon vinaigrette, and again I used a canola oil there, which is a very neutral oil. I like to use neutral oils when I'm doing vinaigrettes, just because extra virgin could be too strong. And so, I infuse that oil first and just make the vinaigrette. And once again, once you find out how much is how many milligrams is in your oil, you know how much vinaigrette you can use. So you can go once again, heavy or light. So yeah, it's really about just showing people how they can make something besides brownies and cookies, which, pretty much everyone can do. How they can actually do hors d'oeuvres or something. So actually in Oklahoma, at Oklahoma City, what I'm doing is cumin lime scented portobello tostada with guacamole, black beans, goat cheese, and then a infused roasted garlic serrano oil. So I was actually thinking about football and what might be a good football dish coming up since football season about to start when we're in Oklahoma. So, but yeah, that's what I'm just trying to teach the people, something simple, something kind of easy, and hopefully they can extrapolate from what I teach them, and then they can take that recipe and do whatever they want with it after that point. I give a recipe to me is like a base, and gives them sort of an idea of what they could possibly do. If you're not too creative and don't know, just follow the recipe. If you feel like venturing from that recipe or deviating from the recipe, go for it. I mean, I just make it and then share it with other people. So that's what I'm trying to do, is just make something fun, a little bit different, and keep it pretty simple for the people wanting to make it at home.
A lot of people have kind of know about butter and oils and things like that, but is there anything that you would recommend people steer clear of if they're newer to cannabis infusions? Maybe something that's kind of more complicated than
nitrogen
people think it initially is.
Don't infuse if you're at home. You can infuse with Everclear, but do not do it inside, especially if you reduce it. If you're using anything with Everclear, which is a really good way of extracting, if you're doing any reducing of it, you're gonna have to do it outside. So do not do that in your house unless it's extremely well ventilated, because it will blow, especially if you're cooking on gas, which I do. It will blow up. So pretty much anything like that, I would stay away from. I just think for most people using the oils, extra virgin olive oil, any of the oils or butter is sort of the easiest way. And I think a lot of people would get how can I do it, or what can I use to infuse with? There's lots of methods. I showed people how to use a just simple crock pot, and you put in a vacuum bag, and you can do it that way. It doesn't smell. Or you can do it on the stovetop, which will smell. Texas, you have to worry about that more than legal states. That's for sure. But there's for me, the stovetop method is my least favorite because it can burn. I prefer the slow cook or in the water bath, the sous vide, or if you don't have a sous vide machine, you can just use a crock pot. It's so much easier that way. And you can actually leave the house at that point in time if you wanted to. So, but yeah, usually oils and butters are definitely the easiest way. And coconut oil is actually the best way to extract and actually butter. So those are the two best.
We had a question from chat. Is Everclear preferred over other alcohols? Is there like a polarity ratio that you're looking for as far as like water to alcohol if you're doing an extract there? Like I know some things that's important. Is that important for cannabis? That's something I've never had a chance to ask someone like yourself that actually might actually know the answer to that.
Everclear is just really strong. So as we all know, with the with the pulling of the THC or the CBD out of it, it's extremely effective. But it also, you do get that nasty taste. I mean, you can let decarb THC or CBD sit in vodka or whiskey, but anytime you're going to go and sort of want to reduce that, you're still, just because of the fumes, you're just got to do an extremely well ventilated area. If you don't want to reduce, you could infuse your whiskey and take some shots. She'll be a great way of getting here. You could even use rum. I mean, so anything with a higher proof content, actually, we'll do the trick on pulling everything out. You just have to let it sit. Some people let stuff sit in Everclear for like 3 weeks, so in the fridge. It's not going to solidify. It's not going to evaporate, and then you just have to strain it really well. I like to use a press. I don't even use cheesecloth. I just use a really fine mesh strainer and just press it. Or you can use bubble bags if you got that as well. So with the fine microns, if you don't want any sediment in there. So all those work really well. Cheesecloth is my least favorite because it absorbs a lot of fat or liquid, and it also can get holes in it.
Oh yeah. What was I going to say on that? Oh, so I found we used to make Green Dragon and stuff like that, but the best, if you are going to cook with alcohol, excuse me, it's been a crazy day. If you are going to cook with alcohol, I highly suggest using a double boiler. Getting some distance between your heat source and alcohol is always a good thing.
Right.
And then also having that level of temperature control helps out quite a bit. But if you are using alcohol, make sure you're out, preferably outside or in an extremely well ventilated area, because you can very much make a dangerous situation if you don't.
Right. I mean, like in regular cooking on infusing, when I'm making we'll just like a brandy peppercorn sauce, that goes on a steak or something. So what I would typically do is have peppercorns, shallots, sweat it, or lightly cook in some fat, just like butter, and you get the flavor. Then drop the brandy in there, and I'm sure you've seen it where it catches on fire. But I mean, I'm not using like a whole bottle, so we're talking about a cup worth. So it's not gonna. At that point, you're okay. But once you start using like a fifth of alcohol or something, take it outside.
Yep, 100%.
For sure.
Not to mention too, if you do cook it down in alcohol, like your entire neighborhood is going to know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
The vaporization that you get with alcohol makes it loud as fuck. So you want to make sure that you definitely are in a space where that's not going to become an issue for you.
Right.
For that.
Right. Yeah, so I was going to work on it. I was almost thinking about making something with taking to Oklahoma City for the demo with steak or a maitre d' butter. But then I was like, taking proteins to the demo is actually more difficult, especially we're indoors and I really just can't bust the grill out at the convention center. They would not find that too cool. So, but yeah, maitre d' butter is just a typical butter that you put on steak, which has usually parsley, some thyme, some fresh garlic, some lemon zest. It can have some anchovy in there, some capers sometimes, some shallots. So, but it would be kind of cool to make one, an infused one to put on your steak, and it'd be done very easily. Just infuse your butter, and you can also use some fresh or you can use some just regular old flour, chop it up, and add that like your parsley. Not even decarb it because your butter's already the infused part. So just give a little flavor, especially if that plant material has a really nice terpene profile as well. Thank you very much for that. There's your maitre d' butter.
That looks really good.
So yeah, when you make it, you just have to get the butter loose, and then usually we put it in a mixer, mix it really well, and then put on some parchment paper and put it in rolls, and you stick in the freezer. So really good on steak, scallops. You can put it on shrimp as well. So lots of tasty things you can do with that. Maybe I will make one. I can send you the recipe.
Oh, that sounds awesome. The
There you go. There's the Tide method. Yeah, that works really well.
that's super awesome.
Thank you.
What yeah, Fumi's I think I'm learning stuff from Fumi now on the Zoom stuff. He was helping me with the co-hosting stuff the other day and everything else.
That was quick. That was good. But yeah, I mean, cooking with cannabis, can be really fun. Obviously, if you're doing dinner parties or anything like that, you sort of want to be aware of how much you're giving your guest, especially if you want them to leave. So if you're doing a dinner, all of a sudden each person has like 200 milligrams, they're probably not leaving your house for a while. So just be careful. Know your potency. That's for sure. If you're not sure, go less. Do not go more.
Awesome. Sorry, we have all different types of ways that people message us while we're streaming. So sometimes I forget about one or two of them and have to go back and read them. If anyone's looking for some easy decarb guides, I actually have one both in mason jars and for the sous vide method on my YouTube channel if you guys are looking for that in a simplified form.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any, what have you found maybe is kind of the biggest myth that you've heard you're a highly experienced chef. I'm sure you hear lots of different goofy myths from the cannabis community on cooking. What's kind of maybe the one that you hear the most that you'd like to dispel if you had a chance to do?
I guess probably the one most people probably think, wow, that's a really good question. I guess, do you constantly infuse everything you make? The answer would be no. I don't. I eat normally. I don't need to infuse everything I make. I think that's probably a pretty big myth, especially since I do, with what I make and everything. Other than I can't even tell you what you have there.
Speak for yourself. No, I'm just kidding. Just a couple of times a week, though.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest one, I guess. Really not even, other than that, I'm really not even sure what another myth or a cannabis chef would make. I guess, you must have lots of weed or lots of flower in your house, or you're constantly doing something, which is no. Yeah, that's a pretty tough question to answer there. It's a good one.
I was more thinking just on the lines of like cooking stuff, not so much personally for questions that you get.
I guess that one, you can't trust a skinny chef. So I guess that's probably the big myth. I guess we're going more into food areas, but yeah, I think there's a lot more chefs out there now that want to take care of themselves, especially working in a restaurant. Working as a chef is a grind. Executive chef, 14, 16 hours a day, easily. A friend of mine who's a chef at a new place in Dallas just opened up. He was there from 9 a.m. to 3 a.m. So, pretty ridiculous hours. So yeah. But yeah, I think a lot of guys are a little bit more skinny than they used to be. So I think that's a really big myth. That's not true at all. That you can't trust a skinny chef. So, but it's very, very untrue.
What are some of the do you do any foraged inputs or purchase anything that's like hyper local that maybe is unique to Texas, Oklahoma, and the South that people might otherwise normally overlook that you might suggest just on the chef side? I know that you have had a chance to take and utilize all different types of wonderful things from different places around Texas and Oklahoma. I'd love to hear kind of what your thoughts are on some of the more unique things to our area.
I mean, definitely, I think both of us know the beef in our area is definitely key. For Texas, it's tomato. We got a lot right now. We've got a lot of great tomatoes that are grown. So, which is really nice. To have these lovely heirloom tomatoes and everything, and a lot of these new breeds of farmers are really starting to key in on that. And I think it's maybe in Texas and Oklahoma, it's a lot of farmers markets have started to kind of pop open more. I'm not sure about in Oklahoma, but definitely in Dallas they have, and it's giving these local farmers a better chance to bring in their goods, which is really nice to see. Which probably 20 years ago in Dallas, that really you could get stuff, but it was definitely harder to get stuff compared to the West Coast or the East Coast. So we grow a lot of really good mushrooms here. Obviously, grapefruits when they come into play. The late fall are really good. Ruby reds down in the southern part of Texas are really tasty. Some of the best grapefruits that I've ever tasted. And I'm not a big grapefruit fan, but I'll eat those. That's for sure. So, but I think a lot of people assume Texas and barbecue, obviously we know is key in both places. In Tex-Mex, I'm not sure in Oklahoma Tex-Mex, but definitely here. So it's sort of my fallback thing to go and eat. If I'm like, what else am I going to eat tonight? I'll just have some Tex-Mex. When you grow up eating it all the time, you kind of get used to it. But yeah, like Texas shrimp or Texas oysters are really tasty as well. So I'm not sure about Oklahoma as much. Probably, I guess it's probably like fried steak.
Yeah, a lot a lot of Mexican food, really.
Right. And I know with the Native American culture, more so in Oklahoma, fry bread and everything related to Native American cuisine as well. So that's I've had fried bread. It's really good. So fried bread and beans and stuff like that. Yeah. And obviously corn. We eat lots of corn down here. So grits and everything like that. So I kind of look at Texas as we're kind of southern, but we're not southern. We're not like the deep south. So when a sweet tea started kind of thing here, I was like, sweet tea? What's sweet tea? It was never seemed to be a Texas thing, especially for me as a kid. Until now. So it sort of made its way into Texas. We're sort of our own little, we try to be our own little country almost sometimes, it seems like.
Your power grid does, at least.
Yeah, you're right. We don't need to talk about that, do
we? Sorry, I shouldn't have brought that up.
I got lucky. I didn't lose any power, and I can say it.
We got lucky. Most of the towns around us did, and we were in this little area that's close to the power plant, and it got severed just down the road. You know what I mean? So it worked out.
Right.
But we've had one hell of a wild mushroom harvest this year because we've had pretty much rain every 2 to 5 days here, just about since February. It feels like. So we've really had one heck of a wild mushroom flush this year. I know we found a ton of morels, a ton of chanterelles, oyster mushrooms, all kinds of stuff. So that's really been kind of a wonderful bounty here this year.
Right. I really haven't gone foraging in here, but years ago, I would get some mushrooms from there's a guy, unfortunately, he's no longer alive, who would grow some really nice stuff, and he would go foraging and always bring them back. There's a couple of companies doing some real nice shiitakes as well, and they were doing them very local as well. So, but I personally haven't been foraging. I have a long time ago, but it was for different mushrooms. We found them.
Those are quite bountiful in the South too.
Yeah, those are quite bountiful in the South. You just gotta know where you're looking. I haven't done that in many of years, but yeah, we didn't have to tip any cow manure over or anything, but we did find the bounty. It was really weird. We couldn't find anything. Then all of a sudden, I guess the right time, temperature, everything that Mother Nature decided to grace us with. Yeah, we were like kids in the candy store at one point.
We had another question from chat. Do you decarboxylate everything, or is there times when you think it's or that you don't want to decarb?
I pretty much anytime I make an edibles decarb, unless I just want to, like in the vinaigrette that I made that went on the dish I did Lucky Leaf. When I after I cooked the bacon and then add the onions, I actually threw some of the fresh hemp flour in there just for the taste profile. So I mean, it was essentially got real decarb real quick, but not that length of time. So yeah, I think it'd be more for a flavor profile than anything else. But yeah, pretty much anything I do is decarb. And obviously, distillate stuff is already decarb, by the way. So you don't have to decarb that in case you're trying to cook with oil, if you can get it.
Someone else asked in chat, do you have a preferred oil? I know earlier you mentioned virgin olive oil. Is that the only one that you like, or is there a different one that you like as well?
Well, I mean, for me, oils are, it really depends what you're going for. If you're looking for, essentially MCT / coconut oil actually does the best pulling except with everything pulling the THC or the CBD out of the plant material. For whatever reason, that's the best. But it depends what you like. Like I said, I use neutral oils, rapeseed, canola. It depends on what dish I'm making. So extra virgin just has that really nice flavor, especially if you get a nice bottle of it. I'm not talking about something that's $8 on this grocery store shelf. I'm talking about a really nice bottle. And if you infuse that, you're gonna have something really tasty. And like I said, that's just a finishing oil, like to go top your plate or top whatever you're eating. So I use all sorts of oil when I cook. I've been using avocado oil a little bit lately for searing and stuff like that. I look at a smoke point of some stuff. So that's why when I'm searing, a piece of fish or a piece of chicken or sauteing, you really don't need an oil that's infused. You want an oil that has a high smoke point. And so extra virgin olive oil does not have a high smoke point. So it's actually not a great oil to saute or sear in a pot with. So, but avocado, canola, all those, even grapeseed, peanut oil, they all have high smoke points. So those are really good to use to saute with. So hopefully that answers the question there.
Awesome. Let me see. Got too many things here. I'm trying to get your links into the description here. Fumador, did you have any questions on in the queue there?
I was gonna, am I looking the sound coming through? I was gonna say, how do you make Steve's medicated Bernaise? Like, he's always talking about Bernaise sauce. I was like, how do you make a perfect Bernaise sauce that's medicated, but it's like medicated in such a way that you know how medicated it is? So like, if you were to pour Bernaise sauce on, Steve's always talking about how he'll put it on everything, on sandwiches, burgers, pasta, dogs, whatever. Not to eat the dog, just I guess for the dog to lick the other dog. Like, how would you medicate that to like a specific amount? So for example, I run a tasting group, and that kind of question always came up, like how do we know how this is medicated, or how strongly it's medicated, or how potent it is, I guess. How do we know how potent we're making our edibles, on and on? Like, how do they do that? Like, let's say on a simple level, like two people making pasta.
Well, it's obviously there's math involved at that point. So if you're making a Bernaise, you have to essentially make a clarified butter first. So when you make a clarified butter, you put it in a pot, and this probably be the the best point is probably to infuse it after it's clarified, because what happens when you're clarifying, you separate the fat from the actual butter, is what you're trying to do. So you need to sit there skimming and skimming and skimming. The fat will start coming off, and right before it starts to turn into ghee, which is sort of has a toasty flavor to it, you would strain that. And at that point, that would be the best time to actually clarify your butter with your decarb hemp or your decarb THC flower. That is the best way of doing all that, is to it really depends on how strong you want it. Usually I've when I started doing my research, the typical you'd see is like a ½ ounce to a pound of butter. So you could start with that. And and then when you make your béarnaise, what you're going to do is when you make your hollandaise, essentially, is make sure your eggs, you're going to need a double boiler, eggs, raw egg yolks, a little white wine you put in there, and start whisking over your double boiler until they become frothy. And then you start slowly incorporating your now infused butter into that. And so once all that's incorporated, you would season it, salt, white pepper, a little lemon juice. And that's a straight hollandaise. And for béarnaise, you need to make a tarragon reduction, which is shallots, a little black pepper and tarragon, a little white wine. You just slowly cook with a little red wine vinegar. And once that is ready to go, you would add that to now your hollandaise, and thus you have a béarnaise, if I answered your question there. But yeah,
I think that's a fancier version than Potent. Potent's jealous now because he's like, all right, I gotta do that now. It's gonna be super hard. Can you do, like, if you're just like a lazy stoner and you just kind of want to get like I don't know, you want to get some CBD in your food, or maybe you do want to get some THC, maybe it's already been decarbed, for example, they bought some products from you, could they mix it into something silly like ketchup? Like, would that work at all? Or let's say
they
we were
wanted
joking on
to.
my show, peri sauce. Like, is that, I don't know, is that doable? Is that
Yeah, I mean, once it's decarbed in an oil, you can pretty much put in about anything. It's just, it's really with with the molecules, the water and the fat obviously don't mix, so they'll separate. So how to get that to emulsify? So I mean, you essentially can make an infused mayonnaise at home, or you could take the mayonnaise you have in the fridge and start your infused oil, start pumping that oil, whisking that oil into the mayonnaise. You would have essentially infused mayonnaise.
Mayonnaise isn't that hard to make. How would you were talking about extra virgin olive oil a little bit ago, like how would you make a really nice medicated mayonnaise with your CBD or THC oil?
Mayonnaise is basically a cold hollandaise, if that makes sense. So egg yolks, mustard, like a little Dijon in it, and then lemon juice, and you start whisking your egg yolks, and then slowly start pouring your infused oil into it. You'd have a lovely infused mayonnaise at that point in time. So mayonnaise is super easy to make, unless you break it. Then you have to fix it if you break it. So, which has happened before plenty of times. And that's the same thing with the hollandaise. If hollandaise gets too hot, or béarnaise, it gets too hot, it will separate. If it gets too cold, it will separate. So it has to have that fine line right above 140 degrees, which if you're worried about food safety, over 140 degrees, you're okay. Once béarnaise gets under 140, you need to kind of watch out, especially if it's sitting out like for 5 hours, 6 hours. You might want to throw it away at that point. But
go ahead, sir.
The acidity and the mayonnaise with the lemon juice and the Dijon mustard will help. This sort of acts like your preservative in there with the egg yolks, because it's usually like 1 egg yolk to like a cup of oil to make mayonnaise.
What about stuff that already is quite fatty or has fat in it? A lot of times, a friend of ours, Cascadian, he likes to make nachos, nachos and cheese. Could you mix in stuff like THC, CBD oils into nacho cheese, or even chocolate, like melted chocolate that you pour over some ice cream, let's say?
Yeah, I mean, if I wanted to say, take I make a cherry jubilee tincture. So, if I wanted to make like sort of a cherry chocolate, I'd melt my chocolate, and the fat of the chocolate would emulsify with the fat of the oil. So yeah, you could essentially, as long as it's going, you're whisking it in there, it's gonna, emulsify, and that's that is key. And just like if you're like making queso or something, you could already have an infused butter or something, or an infused cream, and do the same thing. So without having to, especially if you have something that's already laying around that's already infused, you can just simply add it to it. You're going to know how strong it is, hopefully, after you make it. If not, you are your own guinea pig. Which some people, I'm sure they've made the mistake of, oh, that was way too strong.
Or put the decimal point in the wrong spot, or
Right.
grams.
I mean, it really is, up to math at that point. Going, all right, this is my greenery is 28%, and then if I'm using 7, and you have to do all the math. I'm not going to go all into that right now. I don't know off the top of my head. Actually, I have to look it up every time because I forget half the time.
I was working with somebody, and they were trying to make 250 milligram croissants, and they made 2,500 milligram croissants. So
Good night.
So he ate one and just dropped after like 45 minutes. It was really funny.
Heavy stoners can usually eat. Like at my tasting groups, a lot of my friends and I could totally we'd be really loosey-goosey, but we would take 1,000 milligram brownies. A friend of mine made these like dead ass 1,000 milligram brownies that were just out of this world. You couldn't stop eating them. They were so good. You didn't care how strong they were. Well, a few people actually ended up caring how strong they were because they would kind of pass out at the back of the room. But above 1,000 milligrams, man, kind of all bets are off a little bit for a lot of people. Like most people can't take like a 2,500 milligram freaking croissant. It'd be,
Yeah, I'd be asleep for several days probably.
Buddy, Potent Ponics knows Dirtman Dan. He has this weird freak mutation where he can just pretty much eat as much THC. Like nobody's found a limit for him. Like
Wow.
he can eat 5,000 milligrams and just kind of be walking around, no big deal. Like,
wow.
Yeah.
My buddy's ex-wife was like that. We used to have a whole potluck for 420, and I would cook a turkey, and everyone would bring like an ounce, and we'd smoke 2 to 4 pounds, and she would stay in the room right with everyone else, puff with everybody else, and she just never got high. She just like was immune somehow, or had some glitched out CB1 receptor or something, because she just didn't get high.
Huh.
It was weird. It's the only human I've ever met like that in my whole life.
Sounds like she go against Willie and Snoop Dogg or something like that.
Well, yeah, it'd be funny. Just and hustle a bunch of people to try and smoke competitions.
Right.
That'd be funny. I was just wondering, maybe she has some kind of leg up on like cancers or some kind of like disease because of her CB1 receptor modification. Maybe she has some kind of like immunity to stuff that we aren't immune to.
Right.
That's
Who knows? I've never heard of that before. So I guess kudos to her, I guess, in a weird sort of way. I mean, too bad she doesn't understand what it feels like.
Question. Oh, I don't know if you mind, but a question in the chat from Zuian Slammer. Never had butter. I might have understood their question about either they've never had butter on a steak or not. You were talking about the rolled butter, the maitre d' butter. What a cool idea! Like you can spread that basically on anything, right? But for example, if people do like steaks, or I mean, who doesn't? A lot of people like steaks, right? I guess vegetarians don't like steaks, but a lot of people do. That's another really good one, right? Like a medicated butter on a steak that would kind of mask some of the medicinal flavor, maybe, and you have some herbs like tarragon, whatever. Like that would probably be a good use, maybe, for medicated butter. No.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, you could sort of, take the elements of what I was talking about, the maitre d' butter, of how to make it, and sort of make it your own of what you're gonna do with it. I mean, you could, make something with, chilies in there, make it hot and spicy, jalapenos are in there, just dice them up and saute them up a little bit, or put them in raw, mix it up, or, like sambal paste, something like that would easily go in there. So yeah, I mean, you could definitely, take that, whipped butter, essentially your whipped infused butter, and then, just sort of make what you want. And for me, almost the better way of doing it is, we were talking about, with the hollandaise and infusing your clarified butter, is actually have your whipped butter, then separately have your infused clarified butter, and then whip that in there. And that way you could really, figure out your potency of your whip butter, because you don't have to infuse the whole butter at that point. You have your separate butter that's infused, and then just slowly, once they're both cool. Obviously, you won't put hot clarified butter into cool butter. You'll turn it into liquid. So that's another really good way of doing it if you're really concerned about the potency level, about it being too potent. Of course, you would have to taste it yourself and be your own guinea pig and wait like an hour, see what happens.
By the way, if you were doing that, if you were like, let's say, putting butter on steak, a lot of people actually will cook a steak. That's one of those like restaurant secrets for really good steaks. So you probably know, like, just a freaking pound of butter on the steak, basically.
Right.
But if you did that, you'd probably crash out the THC, right? You'd probably kind of
yeah, I mean,
a lot of it. So maybe right at the end, or what?
Yeah, you put usually the maitre d', like in the pictures you showed earlier, you take a slab of that, and once your steak is, you take your steak out off the grill, or once it's still hot and it's at the temp, however you like it, rare, medium rare, well done, whatever. If you like it well done, I hope you enjoy leather. You just put that piece right on top, and it'll just slowly start to melt. So the heat at that point is no big deal. It's really when you're doing the sauteing part and getting in a hot pan is where you can really run into the issues. Baking is completely different, because it's not just direct heat. So when you're doing infused butter and brownies and stuff, it's just such a different method, because it's not indirect heat going onto a saute pan or or a grill or anything like that. So, but yeah, any of those
like the inside
butter.
of the brownie is literally like less than 140 degrees or whatever until it finally gets to be done, and then it'll actually kind of raise up to that temperature. Whereas if you're frying something, it's like 500 degrees on that.
You could not fry and put if you want to infuse your oil and fry with it, you're wasting your oil. So
that's kind of what I want to say, because it's expensive, you know what I mean? Like infused oil, if you make it yourself, or if you buy it, or if you get it from a friend, then that's a really great friend, and it's a great gift. Then you crash it out basically and ruin it by using it the wrong way. Oh man, you're a sad panda. So that's what I wanted to say.
And I mean, I know probably in Oklahoma, I know in the legal states, they do sell infused butter. Some of the dispensaries do. So you can, if you didn't want to make your own, you can always just go buy it. And then, then make your own stuff with it, take from theirs, and then, make your maitre d' butter if you don't want to have to worry about infusing anything. I mean, if you're, when you're talking about being the lazy stoner, that's a good lazy stoner method right there. Go buy somebody else's stuff. And then if you, just take from that and then just, infuse it, because you're getting, at that point, someone that doesn't want to do it, they're gonna be able to see, whatever the jar is and know how many milligrams is in there. And then, once you, say if you, the butter is, 500 milligrams, and you're taking, a couple of tablespoons from that, or, it won't be 500 milligrams at that point, unless it's the whole container. So hopefully that makes some sense there, to help some people out that way.
Do you have any advice for working with more acidic solutions like vinegars and other things that are, traditionally kind of more of a pain in the ass? Or if that's something it's in your secret box, that's totally fine.
Well, I mean, I haven't infused any acidity with it. I haven't seen that acidity really pulls that much out. So it's really the fats and the alcohol that are your best way of extracting, essentially. And you can then you more of the acidity for your vinaigrettes or and stuff like that. But I haven't seen. I mean, I've never used any acidity as an extraction method at all. It seems like if it's something's really acidic, it might kind of more destroy it than anything else. Especially if you wanted the flavor of the terpenes, it would definitely it would destroy it.
So do you have all your different products? Is there anything else that you wanted to kind of mention about Rebel Dreads, or about what you do, or about your services that you offer for other people, or any of the different things like that? Or
Sure. With all the products I make, it's I guess when I started getting into this and wanted to do it, sort of making the CBD caramels, the salted ones, before I started the company, and just the feedback I was getting on them, like, tastes really good, and people start going, you've changed my life. So with regular cooking in a restaurant, people come up, oh man, my dinner is really good, tonight, and thank you so much for the meal, can't wait to come back. But when people start going, you've changed my life, whole different ball game at that point. So that's really is what really helped perpetuate me into really making this. And it's the help for me. It's about helping people, and it's trying to make something that's tastes good, and especially if parents have kids and they're looking to give their kids medicine. That's obviously that's on them. I can't tell people that. But that's sort of behind the dessert salsa is, kind of I'm sure a lot of kids don't want to get like a bunch of oil in their mouth, but it might be a good way, something a little sweet to give them. I definitely have that in mind, is helping, parents that have kids that are, what else do we do? I mean, we've heard the stories of, people moving to, legal states to get the medicine for their kids because nothing else is working. So, for me, it's a care factor, a human factor, and it's about helping people that want a natural medicine instead of taking a bunch of pharmaceuticals. And I guess the one person I've changed her mind on is my mom. So she uses all my products, and she's definitely, I guess, probably one of my close to being my number one fan besides my fiance. That's pretty amazing, to have someone who's 80, and she's trying to tell her friends about it now. But a lot of them are still that mindset of, oh, it's a gateway. Oh, I'm gonna, if I take this, put this stuff on my skin, next
Dude,
thing
it's a
you know, I
gateway
might
to
be
a better
speaking-
life. It's a gateway to a better goddamn life. They don't have to hurt anymore with their arthritis, and their fucking old joints can loosen up, and people that have Parkinson's, they loosen up. Like, it's a gateway to a better life, not a gateway to
but
heroin or something.
unfortunately, that's the a lot of those people think the opposite way. That I put this on my skin, 3 months later, I'm gonna stick a needle in my arm or something, because it's been demonized.
Dude,
But
usually it's the opposite. If you ever hang out
completely.
on our shows, you'll hear that it's the opposite. A lot of people used to have issues with those other drugs, and then they actually solved those problems in many ways thanks to cannabis. Not because of cannabis, because they had to deal with it themselves, but cannabis was a big help to them for that.
Exactly. So I'm glad I've been able to change people's minds about it. And the first time I made the topical, and my mom put it on her back, she's like, within 3 minutes, she's like, the pain was gone. So, to hear that, and to turn other people onto that stuff, or to what we're doing, whether it's CBD or THC, or, or doing both together, wherever you kind of live. Not a lot of people there's a good amount of people that don't want the psychoactive from THC. So that's where the CBD is really beneficial for those people. We know both cannabinoids have really great properties to them that are beneficial as medicine. So that's sort of really how this all started for me. Was the mindset of if I can help people and make something taste good, or make something smell good that goes on them, to give them the relief that they're looking for, is one of the most important things for me.
I know I hear a lot of stories, just to further support what you're saying on the CBD. We hear a lot of stories from truckers and construction workers and people that can't test hot for THC that still need to have that pain relief. You know what I mean? Right. And that kind of helps fill the gap in that market. And that it's one that has a lot of people in it, a lot more than people think.
Right. Oh, totally. The one issue, if it's full spectrum, they can still test hot. So, which is so not fair. To all the people that are wanting to, I'm just happening to me right now, with some of the events I'm going to, where some people are just going, darn, I really wish I could try your product, but I'm afraid. And I've got to say, well, there is that small chance, that you could be hot. So you're at your own risk, unfortunately, because the test really doesn't differentiate between what it is, or it just says cannabinoids. So a lot of people that want to take CBD are just, do I take the chance for basically taking something that's extremely legal and it's helping me, and I might get fired. So hopefully that will change here. Hopefully that will change here soon. You know, so but I understand. Some companies, they don't want their drivers driving around, blasted out of their mind. Obviously insurance and everything like that. There's a factor, because that's the last thing we need, especially in our field, is that happening, and people just getting blasted. Sort of what's happening with Delta 8 here in Texas. People are just getting blasted from it, and then they're thinking they can go and drive. I mean, I'm sorry, you're impaired. I mean, if you've never had Delta 8, and like I said, I don't touch it. So, but if you're not used to it and you've eat 7 gummies and now you've got, each one's 25 milligrams, you're going to be blasted and you should not be driving. So, but yet people think, oh, I'm getting in the car, I'm fine. And then it just gives a whole, that bad taste for us, or the people doing stupid things, really put things behind for people like us that are really trying to do something positive in the cannabis community.
Awesome. Well, is there anything you'd like to tell us in closing? I don't want to tie you up the whole night. You're more than welcome to hang out with us, but I don't want to tie you up. It's a little late.
Sure, give my products a try. RebelDreadsCorp.com. You'll love them. Everything is natural, no preservatives. So, really put a lot of thought into it. Especially, there you go again. There everything is. So, number one, of course, is my salted caramels. The topicals are doing really good. Tinctures definitely help, and getting lots of really good reports about Harper's Pet Elixir. So, from people, a friend of mine, his mother's giving it to the dog. She's had 1 seizure, and she was having seizures 3-4 times a week. And now their dog's had 1 seizure in the last month ever since they've been taking Harper's Pet Elixir. So I even have a friend who's a licensed massage therapist who's using the topical as massages, and she can really, she's just saying it's one of the best topicals she's ever had. And it likes the smoothness, the silkiness of the oil that's in there. And she can actually tell after it's applied within about 10 minutes, working on someone's shoulders or neck area, how the muscles start to loosen, which makes her job a lot easier of getting into the muscles to help those people that are looking for the benefits of the massage. So really awesome to hear stuff. I'm still wowed when I hear reports of what people are using my products for and how it's helping them. I've got a couple that's using the tincture for high blood pressure. Actually, they said it's normalized their blood pressure, and they sleep like they've never slept before. So I said I'm still wowed by everything. When I hear something new and someone comes up to me and says something, I'm just like, it's still like, awe, like, oh wow, man, I didn't know that. I'm sure you guys get the same situation when someone comes up and tells you that as well. Well, I didn't know it could work for that as well. So really cool. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate being able to talk to you guys, and hopefully we can do it again. And I'll see you in a month and a half, anyways. But yeah, I'll try to bring some of that food for you to try, so you can at least taste it this time.
Oh yeah, we'll bring you some goodies too. Don't worry.
Cool. Sounds good, man.
Well, you guys can check out more of his information over at Rebel Dreads Corp. You can find links to his social media and his website in the description. Remember, on YouTube, we can only list social media because of, we get Zuckerberged and, stuff. So we have to just list social media on YouTube, but all the other repostings of this will have his website as well. So thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining us. And again, Rebel Dreads Corp. On Instagram, rebeldreadscorp.com if you want to find out more information.
Right. And on Facebook, it's actually, I had Dreadhead Chef already from when I was doing the chips and salsa. So to find me on Facebook, it's actually Dreadhead Chef and not Rebel Dreads. Facebook was like, you're going to have to open a whole new page. So since I already had a bunch of followers on the Dreadhead, I was like, we're just going to leave it as Rebel Dreads is Dreadhead Chef. So, but yeah, on Instagram, it is Rebel Dreads Corp.
Awesome.
Cool.
And we have a link to both of those in the description if you guys want to check that out.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. And thanks for joining us tonight.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
All right.
Well, that was a lot of fun. It's always fun to have a chef on. I think he's only the second chef that we've had the pleasure of having on the show. So it's always fun to learn more. You're more than welcome to stay and hang out, or if you need to take off, feel free as well. Fumador actually just finished up his website, and he's going to actually announce his new project here. So thanks, Fumador. Why don't you take it away?
Cheers, guys. Well, apparently I will open up a new window and stuff. I guess I get to show off my fancy new website. Folks, I would be honored if you took a look. I built it myself. I grew the seeds myself, grew the plants myself. So please do go take a look. I'd be honored if you actually also shopped there as well, but I don't want to pressure you. You know, this is not an infomercial, but please go take a look. Tell me what you think. Hopefully you'll see more of these in the future. Hopefully you'll see most of these lines I will continue working in kind of different ways. I'm going to be doing things in a little bit different way than I think a lot of people are used to. I hope it's going to work out. So far it's working out. People are really enjoying the plants. They're going to be kind of perpetually limited editions. So I'm going to be constantly sort of searching through these lines and sort of refining them a bit as I go. Black Prince Ruby was originally just basically an in-cross of Ruby Jack by Ruby Jack F2. I created that Ruby Jack F2 from a buddy of mine, MZ Stevia on Instagram. A fellow kind of unprofessional breeder. I mean, unprofessional, that sounds bad, but he was, he wasn't one of these fancy people that have booths at High Times Cup or the Emerald Cup or something, but I've loved his beans basically most of all, tied with some other breeders. Anyway, I created like an F2, F3, something, whatever, in cross, but that was Stevie's work. So now I want to go basically do something else. So the whole thing is once I kind of find things, flavors, types that I want to kind of tell a story with that line. So hopefully you guys will join me with it. And like I said, I don't want to make I don't want to make Steve's show into an infomercial, but I would be honored if you guys checked it out. And I don't know, tell me what you think. And there's also bought some seeds. I guess I also should say, by the way, that with premium prices or whatever, you get premium service. So you guys, at least stateside especially, these seeds are guaranteed basically to make you smile. So if you're not smiling, please let me know. Domestically, these are free shipping. Internationally, you guys unfortunately are going to have to pay some shipping because it's very expensive. But domestically in the US, it's free shipping. And every pack gets a 5-pack of Silago the Bat, which is, as you can see, sold out. The only way to get it is actually by buying a pack of seeds, basically. It was it's been the learning process of becoming a breeder and sending out all these strains have basically been tested. And the thing is, like, this was one of the crosses that I was most excited about in the beginning. I guess I don't want to screw up Steve's show because this is basically a character from the kind of Dune, a minor character maybe, but it's still a character that I liked from the kind of Dune universe. And I thought, oh, it'd be really fun if this basically came out before the movie did, blah, blah, blah. So I sent out a bunch of testers, or at least a few. And right at the beginning, there were some problems. And I basically pulled it. I was like, oh my God, no. I'm going to send other things. Because, it costs money to send those things. It was like COVID times. I couldn't just hand them out. I had to actually send stuff in the mail and allegedly to Canada and stuff. So basically, I put Silago on the shelf. And wouldn't you know it, people like Ivory Grower continue to grow it, and it's actually goddamn fire. So pretty much you guys are getting like a, I don't know, freebie tester. I don't know. It's basically it's a freebie, but you don't have to test it all. I already know that I like it, but it's whatever. It's part of the bag. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll take it back to Steve because, like I said, I don't want it to be all about me. But please go check out. Okay, that's a bad example because that one was the one I was like, don't buy that one.
You put a lot of
I want to keep that one for myself. Go ahead, Steve.
you put a lot of work into this, and you've been talking about this for like a couple months now. So I want to make sure you have a chance to kind of show it off on our show too, not just yours.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
You have some incredible photography on your stuff. You really really have some incredible pictures of some of those buds, and you've shown me a ton of stuff privately too, photo wise, and they're just all killers. So
Appreciate it.
thanks a lot
Thank you,
on that. There's funny. I was talking to Jessie today, who does our logos and stuff. She does our t-shirts. Actually, I don't have my. I should put my t-shirt on. But she does all of our t-shirts over at jellybomb.com. You guys can check that out. But we were just talking about how in Canada you can't have any fancy anything really, any logos, no branding or anything on any of your cannabis stuff. And can you imagine trying to stand out as a product with zero branding, zero way to have any type of way to visually distinguish yourself?
So that means like no pictures, no nothing? What does it mean?
Yeah, you can't have any logos, anything. It's just bland as hell. It really makes it difficult for people to stand out really. You do have to rely on the product, which is great, but at the same time you should have some way of visually seeing that product. I mean, come on, it's just too much. But that's why I love seeing the type of stuff with yours where you have just this incredible photography and well laid out site and all that kind of stuff. So it's a nice change and kind of funny because we were talking about the polar opposite of that earlier today. We're working on some new logos of some new products for the Oklahoma market, and we have this cool psychedelic beaver. You guys will see the final logo eventually and when it dribbles in public and stuff.
This is the beaver state, so.
And Oklahoma has so many freaking beavers. Anybody that's ever lived in Oklahoma or Texas, man, they're everywhere. As soon as you learn how to look for them and what the lodges and stuff look like, you'll see them in every single farm pond around. They're good eating too, man.
That's what they say. They're also really good for ecosystems. Every time, like they measure healthy ecosystems by the oysters and the beavers. Like on a serious note, how fun is that?
Yeah, here EU banned logos as well, and it's like, come on, like I can understand making stuff that's not directly marketed towards kids because I think we can all agree that kids shouldn't be intoxicated regardless of the substance, the same way they don't want to get them drunk, they don't need to be getting intoxicated. Their brains aren't quite ready. They'll make silly decisions. I mean, shit, we see that in college. But
I have a friend. The kind of annoying thing is that a lot of doctors are kind of reluctant to come on these shows because none of this stuff is federally approved and blah blah blah. And even if it didn't just jeopardize their license, because of course free speech is free speech, but it could get them like if someone heard that they were on a cannabis show, it might give them like I don't know. People will just basically titter in the background. Apparently, every time they walk through the hallway, I've been told. But there are a couple people that I've been talking to who've said some, honestly, to me, a little bit disturbing stuff. Like there are some. Well, honestly, that's a topic for a whole show. Basically, there are some actual problems with people who do have kind of opioid issues or are taking opioids for health issues and have cannabis in their life. They can actually suffer from some. What's what I'm looking for? Not overdraw. What's the fuck? The ODs. And then in the same way, one thing that my friend was telling me was that kids, basically even young adults, up to not only the age of 21, because of course these shows are 21 and over, but actually honestly up to age 24, 25, there's apparently really good evidence that honestly they shouldn't be using, according to my friend the doctor, they shouldn't be using cannabis because their brain is still developing, which is kind of disturbing when you think about it, because that's honestly like college or even just young adulthood. That's one of the times that people probably smoke the most, but then also like they feel that they need to smoke the most. And I don't know, it would be unfortunate to me if that was the case, that it's actually unhealthy for you, in some way. Probably muted, man.
Absolutely. I'm sorry about that. I was talking to myself. Sorry, I'm trying to juggle 3 different chats and making sure we're staying good on all of them. Um, yeah, I lost my train of thought there. Sorry.
I
Too
think I
many
kind
things.
of lost my train of thought in the middle of it too. Like,
Why don't you mention your podcast and your different stuff? You have 3 shows a week, and they're a little bit different format than this show.
right? We have a much looser format than this show for sure. What was I going to say? Here, I'm going to allow Smurf's comment. Join us, my friends, over on Fumador and the Flavors. That's my YouTube channel. So if you guys see me in the chat, for example, saying hello, or if you just look up on YouTube, Fumidor and the Flavors, Potent comes on all the time. Clackamas Coot comes on all the time. We got a bunch of fun guests that come by. It's a very open format. I kind of try to allow almost anybody that will stop by. Wes Injun, one of the folks that comes, he's basically one of the regulars of the regulars. He said basically, don't be a dick or show your dick. That's pretty much what it is. And he also calls our show the most interactive show in cannabis. I would say that's quite accurate because we try to allow everybody, or I try to allow everybody to come on. And it's like I say, as long as you're not a dick, don't show your dick. And we have really good, interesting discussions most of the time. Like I say, Coop comes on, Potent comes on. We have all kinds of really deep discussions about growing and life. And of course, sometimes we bullshit about, I don't even know, like rocket chips and just nonsense, chicken,
Yeah,
whatever, food.
we get drunk and we get into it about stuff, but it's kind of like hanging out at a bar with a bunch of like weed growing friends, and it's a little bit loose. Sometimes we'll get down rabbit holes on topics that are like weird and interesting and like just cool that all of us or one of us happens to have some crazy in-depth knowledge on. And Fumi's always talking about crazy different old school stories. We were talking about that lady that did all the birds with the threads on fire, and all these different stuff, and then also cannabis history too. If you guys like the talks that I've done with Coot, we notice a pretty big jump on views when it's me and Coot on the show here. If you guys like those episodes, definitely check out when him and I get into it on Fumi show, because we get into it on a couple of them for like 4 to 6 hours.
Absolutely.
And it's as good as the content on this show as far as
appreciate it.
that, but usually a little bit more vulgar than this show.
A little bit more vulgar, yeah. We smoke a bit more joints. We get a bit more loose. Saturdays are traditionally brews with buds night, so we were brews and buds. We basically have micro brews. Not everybody drinks beer, of course, but a lot of us, Wes Injun and Dee, and a few of us, Potent comes on and he drinks a couple. We tie one on a bit, as you might say, but of course we try to keep it loose and safe, of course, please, at home and everything else. But we like to enjoy weed and microbrews and conversations. We can let it loose. And Tuesday's the more serious night. I sometimes have a guest. Oftentimes I'll have a guest, and we don't get quite as loosey goosey. And then we have some secret shows on Wednesdays, and also every once in a while. Just the other day we had Weed and Whiskey Wednesday. Like actually, it's still so hazy that it was yesterday. We had Weed and Whiskey Wednesday, where we get like pretty well sloshed, I have to be honest with you. So that's the show where we really kind of let loose. But that's only a couple times a month. But the serious show, if you'd like to join us for the serious show, where if we had one, we'd have a bow tie. That would be Tuesdays. So join us, my friends.
Oh no, it's just fun. It's kind of this show is, we try to, especially in the beginning, it was a lot more of a open panel show, and then now we think we found I think a lot of people would agree. We kind of found our stride with the more one-on-one type interviews. Maybe not necessarily one panelist, but fewer panelists and better focus on topics. And then but it doesn't mean that like the other type of thing is different. Like your show is a lot of fun because it's the opposite of that, right? But it's a whole different vibe. It kind of reminds me of how the show was when we started. So that's why I like having fun and coming on your show. It kind of reminds me of a couple of years ago. I don't know, in a positive way.
Right. No, I get it. Yeah, we like to have fun, man. I like to say that or I tried to remember to always say, and then of course sometimes I forget because we're not actually taking ourselves that seriously. We try to take the cannabis seriously, but we don't take ourselves too seriously. So I think that actually plays off of a good vibe, because we do take cannabis very, very seriously. We're not just kind of bullshitting. I specifically do not allow bullshit on my show. But if you don't bullshit, you're welcome to goof off as much as you want.
Absolutely, and I wanted to share this real quick. But we did a whole, let me just get to the intro. So if you guys haven't checked it out already, I think a couple of you guys have, but if you haven't, I actually put a supercut together. I edited together all the conversations that we had ever on the show with Frenchie from start to finish. It was 3 episodes that he was on with us. I edited all of the content where he was talking basically at all into one kind of supercut as a kind of a final thank you to Frenchie and all the knowledge he put out, because it's good. You know, he shared a lot with us, and I think it's the best way we can honor him is help make sure that the stuff, you know, his teachings can be, you know, put out there as much as possible. So definitely check that out if you're looking for, you know, kind of all of the stuff he ever did, at least with us. For those of you that don't know, Frenchie passed away on Sunday. If you're just learning that now, unfortunately.
Pretty sad loss.
Way too soon, and truly, in my opinion, the hash god. Nobody else knew as much about traditional hash making as that man. No one knew. No one forgot as much about traditional hash making as that man knows or knew. You know, so and I'm truly blessed to have presented with him at the same conferences multiple times, but also smoked with him, hung out with him, and you know, I've been in his presence and learned from him in his class as well. So I'm super thankful for all he did. If you guys are not familiar with his work, please go check out FrenchieCannoli.com. He has a wonderful free library of extraction methods that you can learn from and utilize for yourself, and they're all free of charge. So definitely go check that out over on Frenchie Cannoli. His YouTube or his website both have a ton of information on hash making, and you know, check out all the different stuff and the different talks he did, because he, you know, his understanding of the history of it as well, and how they did the traditional methods and how that kind of factored in to what we observe and we pick on that particular topic of aged hash. No, who else knew more than him on aged hash, on the chemistry? Nobody knew half of as much, you know. So it's truly going to be a devastating loss to the cannabis community, especially the organic hash community. And you know, somebody that you just can't replace what that man saw. You know, he had a chance to go to Afghanistan before the Taliban. He had a chance to spend, you know, years and years in Nepal and Morocco and all these traditional hash making regions, and learn from them firsthand by living there. That's a different experience. Having lived in Africa and Jamaica, it's a different experience than going and learning real quick and leaving. You know, it's a whole different way of learning it, you know. So, and he
I was
had
watching
done
your show earlier today, and he was talking about the Parvati in Nepal, and I always forget that valley, the Hanana Valley. I always forget the name. Literally, the place where they think that they're the last descendants of Alexander the Great, basically. So famously, actually, Alexander the Great did go to Nepal. That was the thing that really happened, and they left soldiers basically everywhere they went. And so it's actually theoretically possible those people literally are dead ass descendants of Alexander and of his troops and everything else. And they have like the world's oldest democracy. Anyway, he was talking about that. And after he was talking about, oh, fuck, that's so interesting. I forgot about that. Like now I'm forgetting the name again. And so I looked it up on Wikipedia basically. And I was kind of reading about it a little bit. What a cool guy. And he was there making hash. And he was talking about how he was going through places where, I mean, you guys can literally, I'm just repeating the stuff that he was talking about better because he was doing it, but I'm just repeating how fascinated I was that he was talking about, like, he was going places where you had to bring everything that you wanted to survive with. So there was nothing available. Like, we're not used to that in any way. Like, if you have to go to the bathroom, you have to create a bathroom. You don't just basically go to the bathroom. If you want food, you have to bring your food with you. There's no place to buy it. There's no place to get water. There's no place to shelter yourself. And he was talking about, like, going to grow and make hash in those kinds of places. What an interesting dude, you know. Putin has talked about stuff like that, and how different it is going to Nepal and seeing the plants there and how it grows and everything else, and having a different understanding of plants as a result.
It's the Parvati Valley. Parvati. Parvati. That's where he was. Took me a second to find it.
Malana Valley in, here, I'll show it. It's part of, Malana is an ancient Indian village. So it's one little village basically. And he was talking about how you're not allowed to touch the people because they are of the highest caste in the world, Remember, a lot of those places in that South Asia, Southeast Asia, they still have active caste systems. Well, these people consider themselves to be the highest possible caste because, of course, they were descendants of Alexander, King of Kings, blah, 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 right? Anyway, so they're saying Malana, so you literally couldn't touch the people. What a trip is that? Malana is an ancient Indian village in the state of Himachal Pradesh. I've just fucked that up. In the Kulu Valley. It's isolated from the rest of the world. There used to be about 500 people there with their own language. Let's see here. There's more than that now, but anyway, I guess I'll give it back to you. It's not my show, but it was just so interesting to hear it. He was there. There's the Hellenic connection. Anyway, dude, he was there. What a trip, right?
It's nice having a co-host that knows how to work buttons too. I'm used to I mean that negatively towards my other previous co-hosts, but I haven't had ones that participated as much, and it's nice. So again, nothing, no slight to anybody else in any way, because they've been with us for 249 episodes. So
crazy.
Can't be happier. And then not only that too, like, and we all know this, having gone through losing a couple of different people, the community really is awesome to be there when people have shit go down, like when Stoney Scholar passed, or Frenchy passed, or, you know, any of these other people that we talk to on a regular basis. It is kind of nice to have the community there to kind of pay homage to. I mean, I was just in shock when I found out about French. Straight up just didn't even know what to say. It was like, this can't be true. Like, and not only that, but a lot of people posted that, like, fake, or like, you know, some of their shit, and it was like, dude, I so much wish it was. Like, not only that, but like, I would never joke about anybody being dead. Like, that's just too fucked up to ever joke about, you know?
Yeah, even an enemy, you don't come back from the dead.
Yeah. So, but I did find it really funny that in the super cut we did for him when we did it this morning, that it was 4 hours and 20 minutes. And I think that that was most definitely a sign from Frenchie. He planned that shit. So, all right. Well, it's been a. Did you have anything else you wanted to mention about your upcoming episodes?
Of course, I have to cough as soon as you ask me. I don't know. Come see us on Saturday. We'll be doing Brews and Buds again. We usually start a little bit later on Saturdays than we do on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and I don't know, we'll be having fun. Check out my seed company if you would. Fumidoro, FumidoroSeedCo.com, Fumidoro.com, Fumidoro.net. Go check it out. All goes to the same place.
And you recently started up the in-person stuff again. How often are you going to be doing the meetups?
Hopefully quite regularly. Honestly, I've just been so busy the last couple of weeks that I can't promise to do another one in the next couple of weeks. But dude, the place that we had it, it was at the, by the way, I can't speak highly enough of it, Khalifa Social Club in Oregon City. It's been a while, honestly, since I had such a chill, easy, streamlined experience at a club or place that I wanted my group to meet at. No disrespect necessarily to several other places that are still in business in town, but they have their own kind of reasons. Either the space is small or this or that. So this place was, it was great. So really enjoyed it. They were super attentive. It was only one dude working there, but he was like 5 employees. He was that attentive. So we're going to be meeting there again, I'm sure. Khalifa Social Club over in Oregon City. I would recommend, I bought a membership. I would recommend you buy a membership. How many places are there, at least in Oregon and Portland area, that you can go and you can cheap one down, bring your friends, cheap one down. They do have a dispensary out front, but it's kind of weird with the rules. I'm not going to get into it. They'll probably tell you when you accidentally walk into the dispensary first. Google Maps will even tell you to walk into the dispensary, and then, oh yeah, it's right around the other way. Whatever, but you might as well hit the dispensary first because they won't let you come in after because of the cameras or whatever. But I don't know. I'm just gonna say it was a cool place. We're gonna meet there again. Hopefully, maybe even a couple times a month. You know, so because it was so fun, so chill. People online really enjoyed it. They enjoyed seeing us just kind of hang out and smoke weed. So we're gonna try to make it a regular thing. So appreciate you asking.
Heck yeah, and like I said, I always have fun hanging out on Fumi's show. It's kind of like the more relaxed version of this one. Right. So definitely go check that out. If you guys need anything, you guys can check us out over at apmjclass.com and apmjnudes.com. I'll pull them both up here. For those of you that don't know, aside from all the wonderful free education that we put out weekly on here, Marty and I do have a start to finish class. It also has a lot of more high level and more specific information on things. So if you're looking for exact dosing on nutrients for your system, if you're looking for pest control dosing, per gallon for your sprayers, if you're looking for a lot of that more technical stuff, this is really what the class is for. It's also more of a start to finish if you want to try and learn how to set up your farm from beginning to end and all the different things that are involved. And then we also have apmjnewts.com. If you guys are looking for kind of a easy aquaponic nutrients, you can check that out over here. You can buy them either in the kits that I've formulated, or you can buy the minerals individually yourself. If you already know what you're doing, or you feel confident, or you just want to supplement your compost teas, we do offer everything in 1 and 4 pound amounts, or in some cases less. Some of your micronutrients, you don't need a 1 pound. A pound of sodium molybdenate will last most people a lifetime. So, so you can get some of the stuff in 4 ounces as well. So definitely check that out. Again, we have dosing instructions. We have dosing instructions for aquaponic systems and all that account for fish safety and fish toxicity. So it kind of helps simplify that for aquarium people as well. If you're doing planted aquariums, you can also utilize all of those. We have heavy metal tested all of those to ensure that you will not run into issues as long as you use them as directed. I can't, some of these, if you went completely crazy, in theory, I guess you could get yourself into trouble, but we haven't had any customers do that. So thankfully, not an issue, but we do heavy metal test all of our products. All right, well, thanks a lot for watching. Thanks a lot again to Michael Weinstein and Rebel Dreads and the Dreaded Chef for coming on. And I look forward to seeing him here in Oklahoma City. Thanks a lot, Fumador, for coming on the show and telling us about your website and showing off all the hard work that you've been putting into that, because I know you've been talking about that for a long time. So happy to finally see that go public. So that's super cool. And then thanks everybody for watching. Again, if you are interested in checking out the stuff we put together for Frenchie, you can check that out. I uploaded that earlier today. We'll have that out in video format tonight. It chokes up my internet connection, so I'm going to do that when I go to bed. So we'll see you guys again next week. Next week we'll be doing some stuff from Georgia, from the facility out there, and then the week after that we have, I believe it's Landrace Strain Preservation Society. We'll be talking about Mexico and Guatemala and other Central American and South American breeding programs that they've been working on, and they have some really cool, fun announcements that you're definitely going to want to be on the episode live for. That's all I'm going to say. So definitely looking forward to that one as well. They got some super cool stuff they're looking to share with everybody. So definitely check that out. And then we have, after that, we have Luna Whitecomb, who's going to be joining us. Anyone that knows or seen anything from either Skunk Magazine or lately, or from the online organic scene, knows she puts a ton of work into supporting the community and putting a ton of well-thought posts together and everything else. So it'd be really fun to interview her on the show. So thanks a lot, everybody, and we'll see you guys again. You can find us on YouTube.